Welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today as we discuss homelessness in Orange County. My name is Inaudi Esposito. I'm the Executive Director of the Orange County Human Rights Commission, and I will be moderating our conversation today. Joining me are four of my colleagues. Representing the Orange County Department of Social Services and Mental Health is Commissioner Darcy Miller and Director of Economic Independence, Terry Torchio. With us today, we also have Executive Director of Honor, Chris Molinelli, and Executive Director of the Newburgh Ministry, Colin Jarvis. I'd like to start with giving you each a moment to share with us a little bit about your agencies. Darcy, can you start sharing a little bit about your departments?
Sure, I jokingly say if I started sharing about my departments, we'd be here all day. So we cover a large amount of human services, as well as providing services to people with mental illness, substance abuse, and mental and developmental disabilities. Terry will give you a little bit more about our economic independence, but what I get to do as the commissioners work with an amazing team of staff that covers so many diverse services. Additionally, I get the support of our county executive, Steve Newhouse, in the Orange County Legislature, and to work with some of the most amazing representatives from human service agencies across this county, some on the call today. We couldn't provide the services we do in this county without the commitment of so many, and we all try to do it under the umbrella of Welcome Orange, where we welcome people who come to our doors and provide them with a hopeful experience. So I'm really glad to be here today with all of you.
Hi, I'm Terry Torchio. I'm the Director of Economic Independence in Orange County. I'm in charge of several of the eligibility programs, including temporary assistance, our daycare program, our home energy assistance program, and also the homeless services program.
Wonderful, thank you so much. Chris, can you share with us a little bit about Honor?
Yes, good afternoon, Inaudi. Thank you so much for hosting this forum. So also want to thank my colleagues, Commissioner Darcy Miller, my good friend Colin Jarvis, and Terry Torchio, who are doing amazing work each and every day, even during this very unique and challenging time. But thank you again. I'm Chris Molinelli, Executive Director of Honor. We here at Honor sponsor 15 programs assisting those in need throughout Orange County. And today we'll be focusing on our adult and family shelter, as well as our runaway and homeless youth shelter, which is known as a Friend's House.
Awesome. Colin, can you share with us a little bit about the Newburgh Ministries?
I have had the great fortune, and I call it fortune and a privilege to lead this really wonderful grassroots organization for the last 8 years. Newburgh Ministry has been a pivotal community service, faith-based organization in the city of Newburgh for the past, we're going on 37 years. And just opening up its doors and inviting people in from the community, but those who are most vulnerable and those who have the greatest need. And the mantra of the group of Catholic sisters who started the agency 37 years ago now is that we stand in solidarity with all who come through our doors, just meaning we are able to really, understand your pain and we are present with you, and we hope we can kind of take you through this journey. So we're here in the at the Newburgh Ministry, 37 years and going strong, I think.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Colin, and thank you all for being here again and for joining us. So I'd like to start off with asking you a question, Darcy, to really get us started. Let's humanize this issue. When we talk about homeless, who are we talking about? Who are the homeless?
Well, the homeless are people just like you and me, right? They're our sisters and our brothers and our parents and grandchildren, their families and their individuals. And that's what sometimes our community forgets. There are people who are homeless situationally, so one paycheck away from, one medical bill away, one car payment away from not being able to sustain their home. The cost of homes in our county and across New York State and across the country, we're investing over 70% of our income into our housing on average. And when you look at those numbers, it's very difficult to manage a household. We also have people who have been exposed to trauma. There's some research that shows that 80% of people who are homeless have some form of trauma in their background. When we think about single mothers, some who have experienced domestic violence who, again, situationally need to get out to be safe, and they become homeless for those circumstances. In addition, we have people who are chronically homeless, and those individuals struggle oftentimes with unmet mental health needs. Again, 1 in 4 Americans have a mental health issue. When we think about access to treatment, when we think about longevity of treatment in order for people to be well, and most people do recover from mental illness, if you are not able to with serious mental illness like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, and then couple that with a substance abuse issue, both chronic health conditions, you can struggle to have stability and to maintain a household. What we're so committed to here is acknowledging that the people who are struggling with maintaining housing are also struggling with multitude of issues, that we expect complexity when they come to us for services, and we use one another across the county to support all of their needs. Great appreciation for those who do that. We have the folks who join us on the call, Chris and Colin and Terry, they can give us individual stories. They can tell us about the amazing strength and resiliency and compassion that people who struggle with housing stability bring forward and what they learn from them every day.
Yeah. Chris, can you share about who is walking in through your doors?
Absolutely. And thank you, Darcy, for framing that so eloquently. You know, the homeless, it is hard to imagine that the average median age in the United States of a homeless person is 9 years old. That number just is just unfathomable, but it's the truth. Here at Honor, each and every day, we've had up to about 130 men, women, and children that we have the privilege to serve and house and feed on an ongoing basis. But to put an even more permanent mark on this unique moment in time, the homeless are what are considered essential workers. I have the privilege of passing individuals who are leaving for work each and every day, considered essential. So when we talk about homelessness and we talk about our neighbors, they're just that. Our homeless are our neighbors, and they are essential in this moment in time. They're going out to work, they're serving food, they're providing a public service, they're providing maintenance, they're providing, it is truly remarkable. And when I get to pass them in the hallways, it makes me feel that I even need to do more.
Mm. Colin, is there anything you want to add about the folks you serve at the Newburgh Ministries?
Oh, it's an amazing group of individuals, you know, and the stories are truly amazing. You know, as Darcy said, particularly the chronically homeless, there has been significant trauma in their lives. I'm just amazed at the resilience, you know, because of some of the horrific things that some of these folks have been through, and have come out on the other end of it, and really are grateful for what we do for them each day. And I'm just honored to serve. It's, you know, so folks who have lost everything, folks, you know, who have had nervous breakdown and mental illness, and have lived in the woods, you know, for many, many years, that are just now resurfacing. You know, these are the folks that we see. You know, they have families that, for whatever reason, it didn't work out, and so they're all alone. And so the ministry is their family and their fellow, you know, homeless brothers and sisters and our staff. You know, it's a community that there's a judgment-free zone, if I might coin Planet Fitness. We know that many of us live from paycheck to paycheck. And at any point in time, I, you know, could be occupying a bed upstairs, you know, because I'm no better than who lives there. Just an openness to some of the most amazing folks with skills, you know, with experience, and just with a heart of wanting to, you know, they're down on their luck, but they're grateful. They cook meals for the entire, you know, the entire shelter, and they serve meals, and they have a good laugh, and they're respectful of each other's space. I'm just, you know, lucky to be a part of this whole process, and just knowing what's out there in terms of really the quality of people, right, that we refer to as homeless, but we serve every single day.
Yeah, thank you so much. Terry, I want to start this next question off with you. Chris actually kind of started with giving us some numbers, but I was wondering if you can share some data. You know, what does homelessness look like in Orange County?
Since the pandemic, we've seen an uptick. We've seen more people calling. The after hours number that Honor runs for us on a contractual basis. We have seen more people, and more people that we have never seen before. More people that haven't been homeless before, that we're not familiar with. So as of, I believe it was May 8th, the last count that I have, we had 196 cases that were sheltered in Orange County, and 325 individuals. So those are sheltered in between, Honor, CHI, the Newburgh Ministries, the different programs that we have, and hotels. We're using a lot of hotels right now because of social distancing and needs that people have, the reasons that they've become homeless during this pandemic. For instance, people that were couch surfing, as we call it before, and people were allowing friends and family to stay with them. Once this pandemic came about, people were very reluctant to allow others to stay with them anymore. So we were seeing a lot of people that we hadn't seen before.
Chris, can you share some numbers with us as well?
Absolutely. At the start of the pandemic, and we'll use March 1st as our marker, Honor had about 130 men, women, and children. Our youngest was days old. Our most mature was in his 80s at that time. So wide range of individuals. But to touch base to piggyback what Terry was saying, since March 1st, Honor's call center after hours, which is also we collaborate closely with 311 and 211. We've received 1,309 phone calls, and from that we've housed about 237. So some of these numbers are mirroring each other.
Okay, wonderful. Colin, did you want to add to the numbers?
Well, we've known, I think in the last few years that homelessness in terms of just sheer numbers, across the country is on an increase, trajectory. We understand, the reasons for that. It's not just that people are just kind of lazy and just want to drop out of society. We understand that, there are serious issues in terms of quality and affordable housing, particularly in inner cities. We understand that, the fault lines appear, as we're trying to do the best we can, and as we're limited with some of the services that we've had before, where in terms of institutionalization of mentally ill folks, but the numbers on the rise, and I think what's unique about this time that we're living in is that we have found ways, incredibly, I think, to really reinvent ourselves, and in a way that we are able to cope, with the stress and the demands that COVID-19 has placed upon us. We've had to do it in the shelter system in terms of social distancing and how we have people sleeping in very tight quarters. We have had to reinvent ourselves in terms of being able to provide protective equipment for folks. The wonder in all of this, and the amazing thing in all of this is that, the clients that we serve are the most compliant. There's hardly a resistance to folks. I think they recognize and appreciate more than we could ever imagine that, we just, as they say, all in this together, and each person has to do his or her part to make this work. So yeah, I'm seeing the same thing, in this neck of the woods, but I'm seeing some incredible stuff happen, and the collaboration with agencies and with Department of Social Services, it's just amazing to me.
That's great. That's really great to hear. And it's an excellent segue into my next question of how do we serve the homeless? right? So I'm hearing that we've had to make some changes to how we provide the service. But overall, what does it look like? If I were to call a hotline and say I have nowhere to sleep today, what does it look like on all ends? Terry, would I get you first or one of your staff first through the Housing Resource Center? Hold on, I'm unmuting you, Terry.
I'm sorry.
There you go.
If it's during regular business hours, then HRC is available. So we are still fully operational. The Housing Resource Center is fully operational both in Middletown and in Newburgh. We have we're co-located with our other temporary assistance offices in both areas, in both sections of the county. So if it was during those business hours, then people would get in touch with us there. And we would assess the situation with the help of Catholic Charities, who is on the front end of that system with us. They're co-located with us. And we would, do an assessment and try to figure out how to best meet the needs of the person that is presenting to us, whether that is to, a referral to Honor, a referral to one of the other agencies that we work with, a referral to Project Life. We work with many other agencies. If it's an after hours situation, then that would go through Honor's after hours call, and Chris can speak more about that.
Chris?
Yes, starting every night at 5 o'clock, and that's Monday through Friday, 5 o'clock till the next start of the next business day, 8:59 a.m. And then 24/7 on the weekends. Honor will be receiving those phone calls as we always have. I just want to compliment the system that we as a county continue, and this has never stopped, that we've handled each call as acutely as possible. And we've handled it as dignified and with as much empathy as we possibly can provide. So that is not something that is new during this COVID time. We've continued to make deep strides in assisting those reaching out to us and requesting assistance. So you are met with a brief interview, because we want to make this as quick as possible. Going through a very long, lengthy interview process is not what anybody needs on a normal day, let alone during a worldwide pandemic. And we make the quickest assessment as possible.
Wonderful. Colin, how about for you? What do services look like at the ministry? And can you also tell us a little bit about the warming station?
Yeah, I mean, it's referred to dancing on a dime, really. So, at the ministry, we would generally provide like a continental breakfast, and, folks will just hit the soup kitchens for lunch and for dinner. With since COVID, we've found ourselves in a position where we have suddenly become responsible for providing meals, 3 square meals a day, and finding food and finding money to do that. And I have to say how very proud I am in terms of the, in City of Newburgh, in times of crises, the best comes out, among the providers of services across the board, business owners, government agencies, other not-for-profit agencies, I want to give
community members even.
Community members. Want to give a shout out to Michelle McEwen and recap, just feeding the community, the community of folks that would come in and have a cup of coffee at the Newburgh Ministry, just because now of COVID-19 and social distancing, that doesn't happen. We're still responsible for our shelter occupants. And even providing food, hot meals to our homeless guests, who occupy both the warming station and Winter Haven at 9 Johnson Street. Incredible, just it's organic how these things happen. Increase in cleaning and the cleaning activity, supplies, all of that good stuff. Whereas, we would, generally clean twice a day. We're cleaning just kind of like around the clock, if you will. So life has become very, very different. Of course, there's a measure of stress to that, because you worry about, if somebody tests positive, or, if we're going to have the infection rate come to the doors of the Newburgh Ministry. But I got to tell you, so we do a temperature check every single, well, I think 2 or 3 times a day now of folks coming in and out of the ministry. We're checking to see what's going on. The county has been extremely, extremely supportive in terms of if we had to isolate somebody, just making that resource available at a motel. We have the opportunity to constantly check to make sure that we link them up to services that can get them tested for COVID. It's like the relay team that the handoff goes smoothly, and we enter the finish line, victorious together because it's a team. So it looks very different. It's a lot more intensive. We're doing a lot more work with our client population, particularly those who have been at the warming station. We have transitioned into an extension, if you will, providing some more focused case management service. So the warming station has become Winter Haven 2 for the purpose of really moving people to a more permanent position in terms of permanent housing. Thanks to a grant that we got from the Cabrini Foundation. But again, I am very thankful that we are able to kind of stand in solidarity with these folks and stand in solidarity with each other, because the only way to solve this is us, pooling our resources and solving it together. And we have done that in ways that I could not have imagined. So I want to thank, just everybody who's on this panel and beyond.
Awesome.
And Nadia, can I just add to that?
Absolutely.
You just had I just want to say, in New York State, the local departments of social services are responsible to house people who are homeless where found. And I think that's important for everybody to know, that we house everybody who's homeless that comes to us. There's some things we check out. And, one of the things that's triggered as I've listened to Chris and Terry and Colin speak is, one difference between someone who's homeless and someone who might not be is the safety net they have. And safety nets don't exist to the extent they used to. Immediate families move across the country and are not immediately available to help their loved one. The people with chronic conditions, the behaviors connected with those chronic conditions alienate them sometimes from their loved ones. So they don't have that safety net. But the first thing we assess is to see, do they have a safety net? Is there someone that they can stay with safely? And can we help to broker that within their family or their friendship group? Also, we have to look at their income. Do they have their own finances to house themselves? Because New York State regulation requires us to do that. And if they do, they have a responsibility to use their own funds to cover their shelter. In urgent situations, emergent situations such as COVID-19, we might overlook some of that, or when it's below 32 degrees and what's called cold blue in New York State, we would house people immediately to be sure that their life is safeguarded, and that is our responsibility. But we work together to make that happen. And I just wanted to make sure that people understand we do outreach. Folks on the call can say, you have, family members referring, you have law enforcement referring, you have fire department referring, all emergency responders. They know how to connect to us. They know how to get people connected to service and get people housed. And we answer all those calls. So it's an important thing to note. When people are out there and saying, I don't know, I saw a homeless person on the corner of such and such, I can bet you Terry, Colin, or Chris already know the name of that person on that corner, because that's how close they are to the community.
That's perfect. Thank you so much for sharing. And Darcy, actually, my next question was for you. Can you, one of the things Colin alluded to is how there have been times where during these times we've had to make some changes to how we respond. Can you speak a little bit to how has the county had to change the way they respond, or what have we had to do to make sure that we are supporting all of our partners in our community?
I think first and foremost is to acknowledge who essential workers are. And sometimes when we think about essential workers, it's only law enforcement and healthcare workers. And I don't mean to say only, because God bless them. Thank God they're out there doing what they're doing every day. But we human service providers are essential workers too. And our workforce is incredible. They have risked their lives. They have taken the PPEs. They wear them. They sew them. They create them. They share them. And they've just been an amazing group of staff who've come forward to help the community that we've always been here to help. So some of the ways that we've had to change is really using, right, the PPEs, following the guidance. You know, overseeing both departments, I get guidance from 6 different New York State offices every day. And we have to make sure that we understand what that guidance is and that we're respecting the people that we're working with and providing them with opportunities for safety, because they're desperate for help, but they don't want to risk their lives to receive that help. We have more people in hotels and motels than what we typically do because we're making decisions about social distancing. We are appropriately responding to people who are symptomatic, who have tested and are waiting for results in COVID, people who are positive COVID, people who have been exposed to people who have positive COVID. So everyone on this call and everyone who's part of our provider system and responding to not only the homeless, but to those who are hungry or those who have child care issues, we're ensuring that we're following this guidance and how we relate with one another. And we depend on the local health department too. You know, our calls have increased. They had to create a whole call center to take these calls. And we greatly appreciate what they have been doing, responding to our community and to us as a provider system. Our emergency operations center, I think everyone on the calls either reached out to them or picked up PPE from them, right? So we really appreciate the work they're doing.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. So we've talked a lot about who are the homeless, but we haven't touched on, and obviously we've touched on them based on our shelters, but where are the homeless? So there is a lot of conversations that go on behind closed doors about why is the shelter only in Middletown and why is it only in Newburgh? So can we talk a little bit about why is that, but also in general, where do homeless folks live? Who would like to kick us off with that?
I can start. So when we're looking at where we're going to refer someone, we look at a lot of different things. You know, one of the first things we look at is there a child in the family that's attending school? So let's try to put the family as close as possible to whatever school the child is attending. Is there a parent that's working? Let's try to put the parent as close as possible to the work or, you know, the individual. So we're looking at all those things when we're thinking about placements. This pandemic has changed things in that we're really just placing a lot of people in hotels, and that's been that's been very difficult. But to kind of echo what Colin was saying too, is Recap was helping us feed people in hotels too. They were just doing an awesome job. Again, another partner that was doing a great job. We do see that most of the homeless seem to come from our cities, which is understandable. So our largest population would be from Middletown and Newburgh. A distant third would be Port Jervis. And we keep an eye on these numbers because what we're trying to do too is to, you know, find people permanent housing is the goal, and we want to find people permanent housing back in the community where they came from and where their supports are. So we're seeing homeless people, you know, all over the county again, but we do see clusters.
And those clusters are really connected to, right? Why do people live in cities? Because that's where they can afford to live. It's where you can find cheaper housing or more permanent living housing. Additionally, transportation. If you are struggling to have stable housing, to have a vehicle is impossible. So to be able to get to services, to be able to get to food sources, to be able to get to childcare sources or bus routes, you know, people are living in cities. And we acknowledge that people come from all over the county who become homeless, but it is concentrated most often. It's not just in Orange County, it's across the country that people are living in places where they can afford to live. And then when they are unable to maintain that housing, they become homeless in those cities where they live. You know, someone made a point to me recently, when you ask the question of, you know, where are you from? People will oftentimes say where they're from. Like, I'm from Western New York. That's where I was born and raised. So when you're talking about where people who are homeless are from, it's where did you last live? Is where people's zip codes need to be identified. So, thank you.
Absolutely.
I want to say, if I might, you know, so some of the things that we've, you know, as I said, I've been with the Newburgh Ministry for 8 years. The the demographics certainly, have changed in terms of, what the homeless, at least in our shelters, look like. When I started, the majority were African Americans, followed by Caucasians, and in a sprinkling of Hispanic folks. That has shifted around. I'd say more Caucasians than African Americans. Still, the least has been Hispanic. Just in terms of demographics, in terms of where folks are from, more and more we're getting folks who end up in the city that are from, the outskirts. And some folks might look at that as some sort of negative. But really, when you think about it, it makes all the sense in the world, because the services are in the cities, right? In the city of Newburgh, in the city of Middletown. And, the fact that you cannot stop the fluid movement of folks, from one area to the next. It's like the criticism that I would hear from time to time about folks who are coming up from New York City and buying up all the real estate in the city of Newburgh. That's just human nature. Folks are going to look for opportunities where they will, or where they exist. And the fact that cities do have more services than, villages, it's just a fact of life. And so, I really don't see a negative in that. What I see is an opportunity for us to serve people, in ways that they probably don't have opportunities to be served in, in terms of where they're from. And I'm of the belief that, there is strength in diversity. I don't necessarily care where you're from. We recognize that, and folks have needs, whether they're black, white, yellow, brown, whatever the case might be. And so how do we provide for those, in a way that's it's compassionate, that's humane? And that's what we try to do. That's the legacy of the founding sisters of the Newburgh Ministry, from 37 years ago. And that's what we all try to do within this county to the best of our ability.
And Audi, I think it's important to mention that at times, when in the topics of conversation, where the places are located where those who are homeless go to, and for just honors to your location, we're reliant on those services that are local. So my appreciation to the Middletown Police Department and Chief Awanchu and all the officers who've been dedicated their resources to honor the local EMTs. I think the important thing is individuals who come to honor, come to the ministries, who we place throughout the county, regardless of where they end up, they want to go home. And that home is their local churches, their schools. So they may have to come to Middletown temporarily. I think the biggest question is, how do we get them home? They might be here temporarily, but the hurdle that we face at times is, again, getting those children back to their school districts, although they are entitled to return there while staying with us here. It's temporarily, they may be with us, but they want to go home. They want to go back to their schools, their churches, their neighborhoods, their families.
Thank you so much. So before we wrap up and get some last words from everyone, Darcy, I wanted to give you a second to talk about Orange County's 311 line.
Sure.
If you can, please.
We were really committed here in Orange County, and I think that many things motivate us, but the opioid epidemic has been one that's really hard hit us, right? And now we're dealing with the pandemic, but we can't forget the number of lives that we've lost every year to a drug overdose. And as a result of that, all of us have gone out to the community to perform outreach or to meet with our local community members. And so many people said to me over and over again, there aren't any services in Orange County. And I go, no, that's not true. There's so many services. We have an amazing array of services. We have access, even today during COVID, all substance abuse services, all mental health services are still open and available. They're being done social distance using telephonic and or telehealth, but the doors are still open. Their phone numbers, you still reach them. So when hearing that over and over again, we said, if I didn't know what I know, and I know a lot about the system because that's my job to know about the system and how to connect people. But people don't know when their child is struggling with a mental health issue, whether they're 7 years old or 27, they don't know how to connect to the system if they've never used it before. So our goal here as a county was to say, let's give them a 3-digit number. And we started out with a 1-800-832-1200 number, which was the Mental Health Association's helpline for many years. And with the help of the Emergency Operations Center, we moved to a 311 that just opened and became official May 1st. But the 311, you can call that line and you can learn about, be given support, be given suicide prevention support. You can be connected to substance abuse services, mental health services, developmental disability services. During COVID, you can be connected to food sources. They have a list of information about who to call for employment issues or unemployment issues. For anyone who calls who's homeless and needs supports, can connect to anybody here on the system. So they have prepared, they've moved to a professional staff so that we can start to take our own calls for the National Suicide Lifeline helpline. And we'll be taking those calls as well. They're 24/7 and they're eager to help. So we really appreciate having a 311 available for our community to get access to services and supports. And thank the Mental Health Association for their leadership on that.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you, Darcy, for sharing. As we come to an end to this really great conversation, I can, it is incredible to me how well we work together, how Orange County is able to bring all of these services, and assist people wherever they need and meet folks where they're at, So it's really important and crucial that we remember that we are in this together. So thank you all for sharing the incredible information and our resources and, even talking about some of the challenges that we've had to face. But I did want to close out with, a quick wrap up. So if you would all like to just take a second and share any thought you have on your mind, anything you may have missed, or just a few words to close us out. So Colin, I'm going to start with you and then I'll go around.
It would be just to really echo what has been said before, but for me is an expression of thanks and gratitude. I know how incredibly difficult it is, to run these agencies. I also know that everyone that's on this panel today do mental gymnastics to make sure that we get the work done and that we're able to serve those in need at the highest quality and level of service. I know that the commitment is 100%. I want to thank you folks for showing up every day, doing the incredible work that you do. And, we're all in this together. It's through the partnership that makes this work. So thank you guys so very, very much. Ladies, so very, very, very much. My friend Chris, so very, very much.
Thank you, Colin. Terry, I'm looking at you next. Are there any words you'd like to close us off with?
Well, again, I will echo what Colin says. We just all have a really great working relationship. I have an incredible staff that's out there every day. We start at a couple minutes before 9 in the morning. We get the after hours report from Chris's folks, and then we start moving and we say, okay, what are we going to do and how can we help these people, and where is the best place for them, and how can we make sure that they're referred to the appropriate services that they need? How can we take care of their immediate needs? And that often, involves calls to the ministry or calls over to Chris's staff, or, calls with Darcy to tell Darcy that I'm, at my wit's end and not sure what to do. And people from mental health can be have been called in to help us with different situations. So again, it really is just the group effort. I agree that really works. It's the group effort of so many other agencies too, and of nonprofit agencies in the county that are always there to support the homeless and to take the referral and to go the extra mile. So again, I'm also grateful for what we have here in Orange County.
Thank you, Terry. Chris, would you like to share anything we missed or any last words?
Oh, absolutely. First off, I got to take responsibility of putting Terry at her wit's end a few times.
Somebody has to.
So my apologies. But first and foremost, let me once again thank you and Naudi for hosting this very important forum. To my dear friend Terry, it's hard to believe we've been doing this for 2 decades plus. So I just want to thank her, Colin, and the amazing work that he and his staff and his board are doing each and every day, and our dedicated Commissioner Miller here. Her accessibility, her listening ear, her guidance and advice. She's been our rock throughout this entire process, and there's more days to come, and we'll get this done together. I just love to thank my dedicated team here over at Honor. There's 125 of us strong. Each and every day starts off with a daily briefing. So Elizabeth Smith, Kathleen Morgan, Chantel Hayes, Kelly Zago, just to name my admin team, our dedicated board of directors who we Zoom constantly and are always challenging us in a very supportive way on how to do things different and how to be better and how to meet the need. To the dedicated staff of all of your agencies and the patients of the entire county. We know sometimes the phone might be busy. We know that we might not be able to get back to you as expeditiously as we'd like to, but through patience and tolerance and a lot of empathy, we will get through this trying and unique time and be all the better for it one.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Darcy, can you close us off, please?
So I think it's all about heart, right? As I listen to our panelists here speak, it's all about their heart and what they bring forward and the leadership that you shine through with that heart. We are in the hope business, right? It's all part of our Welcome Orange mantra. But I truly believe that is the case. From my days of starting out before, when I knew I wanted to be a clinician, it's about sharing the burden of others, right? It's about making yourself available. It's about giving back in order to get and to be able to give to others. And that's what we all do. We're committed to this work because our hearts are in it, and it shows every day in the work that we do. When our glass becomes half empty, we have each other to help fill it and to remind us that we're half full. And I can't imagine doing this work without all of you and not having the opportunity to be there for people in need. So I thank them for sharing their stories with us, for sharing their lives with us, for trusting us to help make their future more hopeful. And I can't imagine a day not being able to do what we get to do. So thank you, Inaudi, for hosting this for us today and giving us the opportunity to share what homelessness looks like here in Orange County and how we support those who are struggling.
Thank you so much, Darcy. It is my absolute pleasure. And now I leave you all who are home watching, really the big task of sharing our information, because as you've heard throughout this entire call, we cannot do this alone. Homelessness is a human rights issue, and we're all in this together. And we are here to help our community and to help everyone, regardless of background, find somewhere safe to sleep to sleep at night. So on the screen, you have the important phone numbers where you can reach any one of these folks that we've talked about. We've got the Orange County Crisis Call Center, 311. We have the phone number for Honor, Housing Resource Center, and the Newburgh Ministry, and United Ways 211 as well. So I'd like to just finally again say thank you so much to all of the panelists. The information you shared was incredibly helpful, and I think it's so crucial to get facts and real data out there, but also to get to hear it from our leaders and our stakeholders, because you all are the ones who are, guiding the ones who are doing this great work. So thank you all so much for your time. Until next time, take care, Orange County.